Welcome to the Hello Sunday podcast with me, Nikki Hayden. This is the podcast that discusses everything self-development, spirituality and sobriety. And it wouldn't be me without a little sprinkling of humour. Whether you are just starting out on your journey of self-development or have been exploring these topics for years, are completely alcohol-free or just curious about living a more sober lifestyle, this is the podcast for you. Each week, I'll be exploring topics in both solo episodes and with some amazing guest experts. So if you like what you hear, then please subscribe, rate and review. So with that said, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, welcome back to another episode. I hope you're all well. I hope you all had a great start to a new month. I'm back in Leeds now. I'm back home and fingers crossed going to have a lot less disruption and kind of back and forth this month. I think I mentioned in my previous episode that I've been back and forth to Birmingham quite a bit in September because my nan has been in hospital again, bless her. But yeah, hopefully by the time this goes out, she's back home, being discharged, and we've got a care plan in place. So with a bit of luck, I'm hoping that there's a lot less back and forth. I mean, I do normally go back to Birmingham once every kind of 4 to 6 weeks to see the family and some of my friends anyway. But yeah, it's been a lot more full on, a lot more kind of up in the air. It's been a lot more tricky to keep my business going and to kind of plan anything. So yeah, we're hoping that she is on the mend now and that this month can be the month that I planned on having in September. So I've rejigged my goals. I've looked at the habits that I need to start putting in place to achieve them and what I want to achieve for the rest of the year, because there's less than 3 months left now of 2023, which is wild because I remember doing my 2023 goals back at the end of last year and it just feels like it's flown by. I think there's been a lot of factors for me personally as to why that's the case. Started a new business, obviously, like I say, been back and forth a lot more to Birmingham this year because there's been a couple of occasions where I've needed to support the family a bit more. There's just been a lot going on. I haven't really had a holiday or a break either. We had one weekend where we went away to Mallorca, but I still did a bit of work on the Friday and the Monday. So I've not actually turned my phone off and kind of detached from work. So yeah, it's been a lot and there's only 3 months left. So it's a good time to be refocusing on your goals, looking at what you wanted to achieve this year, where you're up to, bit of reflection. And if you've not done it yet, then it's a good time to do that because like I say, we don't have long left of this year. So this week's episode is going to be a little bit informed by something that I've experienced personally recently, but also by a quote that I read the other day. So the quote that I read is by a lady called Jen Sincero. Yeah, Jen Sincero. She is the author of a book called You Are a Badass. She's actually a really, really interesting person. If you have time to go and do a little bit of research on her and look at some of her interviews and read some of her interviews, I think there's a few on YouTube, then it's definitely worth it because she's somebody that came into her profession and found her life calling a lot later in life. I think she was like in her 40s. But she actually quoted, and I don't know whether it was in an interview or whether it's something that she's written, but I read the quote online and it says, if you're serious about changing your life, you'll find a way, you won't find excuses. So I'm just going to read that again. If you're serious about changing your life, you'll find a way, you won't find excuses. Now, I know some people are probably going to be listening to that and thinking, oh, another bollocks quote, self-development quotes just thrown out there, all this kind of toxic positivity. But it's really true. I mean, in my experience, I think it is really true that if there's things you really want to do and you really want to achieve, you're going to find a way to do them. And I've seen this come into kind of fruition and play out a lot in the accountability group that I'm in, the 100-day challenge group that I'm in, where people will set goals, myself included, and I'm going to talk a lot about my own personal experience of this today, but we'll set goals and then there's always something that comes up recurring each time we check in that hasn't been hit or hasn't even been kind of focused on or looked at. And what you'll tend to find is that the same things are not getting focused on or not being hit in terms of goals. So it could be anything from as small as budgeting each week, finances, and making sure you're not overspending, to fitness goals, to learning a new language or learning a new instrument or doing a clear out. It could be literally anything, but what you'll tend to find is that the same things are coming up as not being done or not being hit or not being focused on week in, week out. And for me, it's definitely fitness. And when I say fitness, I don't mean the kind of like basic daily walk, step count, that sort of stuff, because I'm fairly good at doing that when I'm in a routine. I'm talking about kind of the more lofty fitness goals where it's like hitting certain weights or creating a certain body type. For me, that is definitely where I find myself not focusing on not hitting my goals week in, week out. And when I was a kid, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this, when I was a kid, if there was something that I really wanted, I would move heaven and earth to make that happen. I remember doing car boot sales with my mum when I was little to make extra money to buy things that I wanted. I remember trying to think of like business ideas and things that I could sell to create more income, to get more money, or I'd save up every single bit of pocket money that I possibly could just to buy the thing that I wanted. And it was often like the latest fad. Like I remember wanting some really expensive rollerblades that were like £100, and I really, really, really wanted these rollerblades, and I would do everything that I could to get them. And that wasn't just because I'd seen them on something else and on someone else and thought that they were cool. It's because I absolutely loved rollerblading and I loved doing all the tricks. I mean, I wasn't amazing at it. I actually tore the ligament in my knee doing those things the once, but I really, really wanted what I wanted, and I would move heaven and earth to make that happen. And that tends to be the same throughout life. If you are really, really attached to something that you want, you will do what it takes to make it happen. And if you're not doing what it takes to make it happen, the likelihood is that that isn't really the thing that you want. What you say you want and what you are actually doing, there's normally a bit of a disjoint there if actually what you say you want isn't what you want. So I'll give you a really good example of this. I did a vision board at the start of this year. I did a desktop background for my laptop. A desktop background, is that what it's called? A background, anyway, for my laptop. And I also transferred it onto a mobile phone wallpaper as well and had it on my phone. And on that, there are things like there's a financial goal for my business, which I've changed throughout the year because I actually hit the first one and then decided to, it's a funny story because I actually put on my vision board a financial goal at the beginning of this year. And then I thought that feels really too big and overreaching. And I think when I'm not hitting it halfway through the year, it's going to demotivate me. So let's bring it down a bit. So I cut it into 2/3 of what it was originally. And then by June, I'd hit that. So I've made it bigger and I'm on track to hit the bigger one now. So isn't it funny how if something seems more achievable, you're probably more likely to achieve it? So there was financial goals for my business. There was the goal of being majorly sober throughout the year. So doing the majority of this year sober. There was the goal of like relaxing more and making the most of my downtime. There was quite a few things on there and I've hit almost every single one of those goals already, or I'm like a really good way towards them, like the financial goal. The one that I'm constantly coming back to and looking at and thinking, I am nowhere near that, is the body goal that I put on. Now, when I say body goal, I'm not unrealistic. I've not put on like a bodybuilder body because I know that that's not the body shape that I want to achieve. I've just put on there, you know, someone who's really toned. You can tell that they go to the gym and take care of their body. And every time I look at that picture, I'm like, you are not near that. Now, don't get me wrong. Anyone that knows me personally knows that I'm naturally slim. I naturally look after myself. I eat well. So I'm not, you know, I'm not overweight. It's not like I'm a million miles away. However, I know that I'm not taking the steps that I need to achieve that body goal. And when I reflect on it and when I sit down and when I really think about it, it's because I don't want it enough. It's not that I don't want it at all and I'm completely lazy. It's just that looking at that seems like there's so much work to do to get there. And I'm just not that attached to the outcome. I'm just not that much in want of the outcome to want to put the steps in place to actually get there. And I think it's just because, to me, don't get me wrong, I mean, everybody is affected by body image, and there's whole episodes that I'm going to do about this, and there's a guest that I've got in mind that I want to bring on to talk about it because it's definitely not my area of expertise. However, I think everybody has a certain goal or certain body image that they want to achieve. And mine is more of like a healthy looking body, which I do have. And so I think to get to this next level of like pure tone, there needs to be a real why there for me. Now, last year going on holiday to the Maldives to get married, that was a big why for me. And I know it was a big why for my husband as well. We both did a really, I wouldn't say intense, it was like 12 weeks of just being a bit more careful about what we ate and doing a lot more exercise and just being really conscious about our fitness and our health. Maybe not so much health actually, because I still think that I'm really focused on health. But now that I've not got a big goal like that, and it's not something that I am super motivated to achieve, it's just fallen by the wayside. And when I say fallen by the wayside, I still go to the gym, but it's definitely less frequent. There's definitely bigger gaps. Like, for instance, the last 4 or 5 weeks where I've been here, there and everywhere, I just haven't been at all. Whereas somebody that was committed to that body goal would make that work. And there has been times where I could have gone. There has been occasions where I've been home where I've just chosen to do other things. So the gap between what you want and what you want to achieve and actually what you're doing and your habits, there's probably a real disconnect between the why and actually what it is that you want. You probably think that you want some of these things, but when you really dig into it, that isn't the case. There's a lack of motivation because there's a lack of attachment to the goal or the desire. So how do you find out what it is that you really want? Because I'm sure that everybody at the start of the year will put down, I want to look great, I want to feel great, I want to achieve certain financial goals. There could be like a whole list of things that you think that you want to achieve. For those of you that are regular listeners to the show, or maybe you know me personally, you won't have been able to get away without hearing me talk about Simprove. Simprove is a scientifically backed, water-based probiotic drink. You drink it daily and it has been scientifically proven to help with things like bloating, IBS symptoms, pain. It was actually a dietitian friend of mine that introduced it to me last year, and I honestly wouldn't be without it now. It's helped with my energy, with my bloating, it's helped with my immune system, and also things like my skin. The list is honestly endless. Now, I have got a code for you. So if you'd like to try Simprove, you can get 50%, that's a massive 50% off your first 3-month subscription by going on to simprove.com and putting in the code Nikki50. That's NIKKI50, or clicking the link in the show notes. for me, the way that I know what it is that I want is through comparison. Now, comparison can be a really, really unhealthy thing to do, a really unhealthy behavior. If you're looking at people that have things that you want and you are sat there stewing, feeling jealous, in a really negative emotion. However, comparison can also show you what it is that you want. So, for instance, I wouldn't look at somebody's social media who lives in the middle of a city and goes out drinking cocktails at cocktail bars every single night and get jealous or think that that's the lifestyle that I want. Don't get me wrong, there was a time that that would have been what I wanted, but at this point in my life, having the goals that I've got now, that isn't for me. That it just isn't. It's not something that stirs up like jealousy or envy within me. However, if I look at somebody like Mrs. Hinch, for instance, her new home in the countryside with the alpacas. Again, anybody that knows me knows that I'm slightly obsessed with alpacas. We have a picture of one in our downstairs toilet. But I would absolutely love to have that gorgeous country home with the aesthetic that she's got, all clean, with the farm kind of vibe, the land that she's got, the animals that she's got. The children part of that image and her lifestyle isn't for me. Children are not something that I want to feature in mine and my husband's future, and neither does he. I'll just caveat that. But all the rest of it is something that I look at and I think, oh, I'd absolutely love that. So I know that for me, that is something that I'm striving to achieve. That lifestyle, that home, that is something that within me really sets off that kind of burning desire. But if I looked at the former image, like I say, someone living in, city living, going out every night, different cocktail bars, fast cars, all that sort of stuff, that just isn't for me anymore. And it's not something, I can be happy for them. I can absolutely be pleased that that person has got what they want and know that that might be what other people aspire to. But it's not for me. So looking at what sets off that fire inside you, gets that kind of envy going and makes you feel like, yeah, that's something that I really want, it's a good thing. It's a way of looking at actually your why and also the what. And when you're setting your goals, then you can look at, well, actually, what are those things that I really want and what are those things that I'm going to strive to get no matter what. And for me, that fitness body this year anyway just wasn't it. So one of the founding fathers of the US, the third president, Thomas Jefferson, once was quoted as saying, to get something you've never had, you've got to do something you've never done. To get something you've never had, you've got to do something you've never done. And I think that for me sums up the level of effort that you've got to put in to achieve some of your goals. And if you're not willing to put in that level of effort and be out of your comfort zone, then it probably isn't something that you want, or at least it isn't something that you want right now. And again, this is a really important part of today's episode, is talking about priority. So again, at the start of this year, one of the things that I'd got on my vision board was a new kitchen. Our kitchen is fine. We could probably live with it for another couple of years. However, the aesthetics just aren't what we would want. They're glossy covers. You can see the fingerprint marks all over them. It's not really the colour scheme that we would go for. It's quite a yellowy cream. It's just a bit dated, to be honest. And we definitely want to change that. We don't want to go kind of mad with the whole redesign, but we definitely want to get a new kitchen, something newer, fresher, brighter, and just more like us. However, when I put that on the vision board at the start of this year, I hadn't yet started my business. I hadn't yet entered into life as I would know it as a business owner. And I hadn't yet had some of the adversity and challenges put in my way that this year was going to throw at me. So it was at that point a goal that I thought I wanted to accomplish this year. However, as the year has gone on, there's been other things that we have prioritized. For instance, our sofa, as I think I mentioned on an earlier episode, broke a few months ago. So we had to order a new sofa because it was snapped. It was absolutely, we couldn't sit on it. So some of the money that we would have prioritized towards the kitchen had to go on a sofa. And then there's just been other things that have come up throughout the year that we've prioritized a little bit more over money towards the kitchen. We've had a wedding invite for one of our friends' weddings next May. So we've put some money aside towards being able to go and celebrate their wedding abroad. And there's other things that have just taken priority. And so for me now, I'm not looking at that goal and thinking, oh God, I've not achieved that. I've not even put the wheels in motion. It's just gone down my priority list. And so that's probably something that we're going to do next year. Not to mention the fact that the disruption of not having a kitchen for a few weeks would be huge. And actually the first year of running a business, you probably don't want that level of disruption in your home when it's the place that you work from. We've recently had new windows, and again, it was a good few days out of our lives of them coming in, putting up the scaffolding, doing the windows. We had to have some of them replaced afterwards because there was an issue with the glass units. So that sort of level of disruption you don't want too often when your home is also the place that you run your business from. So look at your priorities. Look at, is this realistically a priority for me right now? Or is this actually something that I'm probably going to reprioritize and refocus on further down the line? So, for instance, I'd love to learn another language. And when I was living in Holland, learning the language was an absolute priority for me. But when I left, it quickly moved down. Well, it completely fell off my goals list because I didn't have a why. I didn't have a reason to do that anymore. And it was a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of discomfort. If I was to move to another country again, I'd absolutely prioritize learning the language. Or if I was to want to, I don't know, buy one of our goals, for instance, in the future is buying a villa or a holiday home abroad, then yeah, I'd probably prioritize learning the language, because spending any deal of time in another country, you're probably going to want to be able to speak the language to really embed and kind of acclimatize to the culture. But for me right now, learning Spanish or Dutch or French or whatever, just it's not a priority. So look at your priorities, look at the goals that you are constantly missing or not prioritizing. And maybe it's time to put those further down the list, or maybe even push them into next year. So fitness for me, I know for the rest of this year, I'm going to want to carry on with doing things that make me feel good, but I'm not necessarily going to be prioritizing that body that I put on my vision board at the start of this year, because it's just not a priority for me at the moment. Whereas next year, when I'm in second year of business and actually I've ticked off a lot of the goals that I wanted to achieve this year, maybe that will be something that will move up the priority list, and I'll focus on the weight that I'm lifting and the amount of times I'm going to the gym and how to get into the best shape of my life. But for now, being healthy, feeling good, I've realised that is actually enough for me when it comes to that goal. Whereas things like my business, I'm willing to put myself way out of my comfort zone. It's a completely different story. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to hit those goals, because they are the goals that inform the rest of my life and my lifestyle with my husband. Having the money to do things, having the money to go away, to make memories, to go on holidays, to redesign our home, that's only going to come from me putting myself out of my comfort zone when it comes to business. So that is going to be an absolute number one priority for me this year, and probably all of the years that I'm running my business for. It's probably one of the reasons as well why New Year's resolutions don't work so well, and that why a lot of people fall off the wagon right into the start of the new year, like within the first couple of weeks, I think it says from research. I think by like the middle of January, most people have given up on their resolutions. And it's because you're not looking at what you really want, what you actually genuinely want, and what you're willing to put yourself out of your comfort zone for, and what your priorities are right now. You might be in a time of your life where you've got young children and fitness isn't going to be a priority. Or you might be in a time of your life where taking holidays, like for us this year, that wasn't something that was going to factor into the majority of our year because I'd got a business to launch. Look at the time of your life that you're in and look at your priorities and look at realistically what you're going to achieve. And if some of those goals that you set for yourself don't fit in with that, take them off the list. There's no point in berating yourself for the rest of this year if you're just not getting done what you thought that you wanted to get done. And maybe what you thought you wanted to get done just isn't actually what you really want deep down. Now, looking at other reasons why you're not hitting goals, maybe you're looking at them and thinking, look, I really do want this. I actually really do want this, but the goal just seems so freaking huge. Like maybe it's a loss of 3 stone body weight and you're like, I'm not going to achieve that by the end of this year. No, you're probably not. And it's probably really unhealthy to do so. But looking at why you're procrastinating, and a lot of the time it's because it's just so big and you don't know how you're going to get there, that actually just starting is huge. But taking action, taking any sort of action is going to motivate you way more than thinking about the strategy. So just go for a walk if your fitness goal is to lose weight. Just get on the treadmill or just go to the gym once. Taking small action is going to really, really help you. Like I've got huge business goals for next year and I don't have a clue how I'm going to achieve them, but breaking them down into small manageable chunks and looking at, okay, well, what's the first thing I can do? I can start speaking to people that might be able to freelance for me and do some sort of like PA work or admin or resourcing of candidates. I might have massive podcast goals, which I have, and I'm looking at other podcasters going, oh my God, like I'm only on 750, 800 downloads and you're on like 50,000. That seems so huge. But just looking at the stats and looking at, well, if I just keep putting out podcasts every single week, normally people will go back and listen to back episodes. So that will get the downloads up. And actually, it's just taking those small steps. It's just building very, very slowly. Rome wasn't built in a day. And if you're procrastinating on a goal because it feels too big, just start with something, even if it is literally just replacing one meal a day with a healthier meal or taking out your evening snack or evening pudding to get to your healthier goals. Just doing that is taking action, and it's going to motivate you way more than thinking about it and trying to create some sort of strategy or just kind of overthinking. There's a really famous quote, and I have not got a clue where it came from or who said it, but it says, nothing changes if nothing changes. And it's so true, isn't it? Nothing's going to change unless you change something. So if you want to get up earlier and you're like, I really need to put in a morning routine, but I'm a, lie in bed till 9 a.m. kind of girl. I mean, I'm personally not, but if that is you, then just getting up 15 minutes earlier and doing something with those 15 minutes is going to be better than trying to push yourself to get up an hour or two earlier and failing miserably and snoozing and then feeling like you aren't achieving anything. So nothing changes if nothing changes. Make those tiny changes, but make sure it's for a goal that you do really want. You need to reevaluate those wants and look at, what is it that I want and why is it that I'm not putting in place the habits to achieve that? There's an author called Stephen Pressfield, and I'm just going to finish this episode today with a quote that it really resonates with me. And he said, most people have 2 lives, the lives we live and the lives that we are capable of living. Now, most people don't even understand their capability. They look at people that achieve great things and they think, oh, I could never do that. But actually, it normally just comes down to what it is that you want and your why. And, for me, I don't want to be an Olympic athlete. I have absolutely no desire to put in the amount of effort and the amount of discomfort that it would take to train to get to that level. But most people could do it if they really put in that effort and they put themselves into that discomfort. But if you don't want it, you're not going to do that. So really, I urge you this week to sit down and think about, what is it that I really want? Like, what are the things? And don't limit yourself. Like, yeah, you might be a mum who, I don't know, lives in Birmingham and has 2 kids, and at this minute traveling the world or going to live in Bali just isn't your reality. But if that is something that you do want, put it down, because within the next 15 to 18 years, maybe you'll be able to do that. The kids will be older and you can live out that reality. Maybe there's things in your life that you need to change in order to get there. Maybe there's a relationship that's stopping you, or family issues, or friendships, or maybe you're just getting in your own way. But you need to be thinking about what it is that you really want before you're going to put yourself in a position to achieve any of it. So sit down, take some time. It might only take 15-20 minutes. You might get carried away with this and go off on a tangent and make an entire life plan. Who knows? But think about what it is that you said you wanted at the start of this year, and think about where you actually are in achieving those goals. And if you're nowhere near them, or if you just haven't put in place any strategies or any habits to achieve them, unless you've had an absolute clusterfuck of a year and everything has got in the way, which is quite unlikely, then think about why it is that you're not achieving them, because there is a life that you are capable of having, and maybe it's just not the life that you think that you want, and you need to put some work into thinking about what it is that you do truly want. So I hope that you've taken something from that. And yeah, I'd love to hear your feedback on this. I would love to hear if you've had any light bulb moments about what it is that you've been thinking that you've wanted all this time, or what society tells you that you should want, and actually what it is that you want, and put in place the habits to achieve that. And let me know. Drop into my inbox, drop into the podcast inbox, drop into the email. I love, love, love hearing your feedback. So have a great week, guys, and take the time, if you haven't yet, to give a review, give a 5-star rating, follow the show on the platforms that you listen to it on. It means the absolute world, and I will see you all next week. Thanks for listening. You can find us on Instagram at HelloSundayPod, or you can email us on hellosundaypod@outlook.com. Have a great week.